So I sat at home day after day, just writhing in pain, hoping it was just, or thinking it was just, stomach bug, food poisoning. I got into like day 6 and day 7, and it wasn't getting better. The pain just writhing around day after day, horrible. So eventually I went to the urgent care in my neighborhood. They said, get to the emergency room immediately. I went there. They kept me overnight. They treated me for colitis. I pulled my Achilles heel, just horribly, for never anything like that. Put me in a walking boot. I had to walk a little bit funny. That caused this massive pain in my hip that wouldn't go away. So I have this inflammation in my Achilles, inflammation in my hip. All of a sudden, my back, I'd always had some back pain, but it was always manageable. All of a sudden, my back stiffness just all of a sudden, just one thing after another is becoming inflamed, feeling pulled, and I have no idea why all of these injuries are happening.
Welcome to Beyond the Pain, the podcast that explores what it really takes to break free from chronic pain and reclaim your life. I'm your host, Leigh Brandon, and someone who's spent over 2 decades helping people get to the root cause of pain that no one else could explain. Whether you're dealing with long-term back issues, joint pain, nerve discomfort, or mysterious symptoms that just won't go away, this show is here to help you go deeper. Because beyond the pain, there's clarity, strength, and power waiting for you. Each week, we'll uncover the physical, emotional, biochemical, and energetic causes of pain and how to transform them. Let's dive deep into this week's episode. In this episode of Beyond the Pain, Jam Alker shares his powerful journey from the Rockstar lifestyle to wellness advocate. He opens up about living with chronic pain, navigating a broken medical system, and the power of self-advocacy. Jam reveals how diet, exercise, sleep, and holistic practices transformed his health and offers hope, discipline, and inspiration for anyone on a healing path. He also previews his new wellness center, Heal, dedicated to helping others reclaim their lives. I really enjoyed this episode, and I'm pretty sure you're going to too. Jam, welcome to Beyond the Pain. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Leigh. It's great to be here.
Yeah, really looking forward to this. As we were talking off air, my fellow Englishmen, that we're about to have a nice discussion, even though you don't remember ever being in England, but that's another story. So to kick things off, you've lived, multiple lives, from rockstar to recovery advocate to wellness visionary. Can you take us back and share a bit about your background and how your journey evolved over the years?
Sure, I might take exception to the wellness visionary part. I'm certainly a person who has become more and more interested in wellness as time has passed, and it's become necessary for me with the chronic pain and inflammation that I was suffering from. But I am merely a student and a novice in the world of wellness, and happy to share my story and what has worked for me. But want to make sure to temper expectations. But that being said, yeah, I've had a few different careers, done a number of things. Started off the early years coming out of high school, playing in the high school bands, learning that if I picked up a guitar and played it halfway decent, I would get some girls to pay attention to me. And I was like, all right, well, this is something cool. And I had a very, creative, artistic brain. So started writing. I sit down to try to learn someone else's song, and it would turn into me almost immediately just working on writing my own songs. And that was fun as well. So I thought, well, why don't I try to be a rock star? My mom, I don't think, was completely on board, because most kids, when they go to their parents saying they want to do the rock star route rather than, the standard college and doctor or lawyer, your parents, kind of question you. But I was determined. And I think, as we go through my story, that'll be sort of a common theme, is that I'm a very, determined person. If I make a decision, I go at it full on until, I just will wring every ounce of possibility out of it. It's either going to happen or it's not, but I'm never going to lay on my deathbed and say, man, if I had just tried. That's just not something that was ever going to be a part of my story. So yeah, early on in Chicago, moved downtown and started a band, was managing the band, was doing the bookings, recording, all the stuff. And, we had some decent success, starving artist style still. But I was doing, a number of other things while I was doing that. And then I, went down the Rockstar path of some addiction for a while, came out of that, got back into music in a whole different way. And that was a whole nother level of success that I had moving into that second phase. And that was kind of the beginning of the rock star life. And then after treatment, it kind of exploded from there. And that was when I got a deal with Sony. Things picked up. I did a bunch of touring, made a few albums, and had a good time with that until COVID shut us down.
Yeah, shut a lot of things down, didn't it?
Sure did.
So at one point, you were living life in the fast lane.
Yes.
How did chronic pain begin to impact that pace of life, and what did it force you to reckon with physically and emotionally?
Sure. So COVID sat us all down. Not only was I touring with my band, but I was also doing a lot of public speaking. I'm a person myself in long-term recovery, so was doing a number of speaking events with that as well. All of that was shut down. I was home trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And when that happened, it wasn't COVID, but during the beginning of COVID, I got colitis, which is a horrible bacterial infection in the gut. And if you remember the beginning of COVID, you didn't want to go to a hospital. It was, guys in hazmat suits and several masks on their face and, like the zombie apocalypse. So you were not going anywhere close to a hospital. So I sat at home day after day, just writhing in pain, hoping it was thinking it was just, stomach bug, food poisoning. I got into like day 6 and day 7 and it wasn't getting better. The pain just writhing around day after day, horrible. So eventually I went to the urgent care in my neighborhood. They said, get to the emergency room immediately. I went there. They kept me overnight. They treated me for colitis, which, is a round of massive, very, very strong, you know, antibiotics, which I know now, havoc on your gut biome, as well as several other issues that were going on already that I wasn't aware of, a mold infection, parasites, a number of things in the was creating gut dysbiosis that I wasn't aware of. I know that now after the long journey I was on, but at the time I went to the hospital, they put me on the antibiotics, they sent me home the next day. Unfortunately, I don't think they really explained to me how serious of an issue it was, but I thought it was over. And then maybe a week or two later, things just started to break, and I didn't put the two things together. I pulled my Achilles heel, just horribly, for never anything like that. Put me in a walking boot. I had to walk a little bit funny. That caused this massive pain in my hip that wouldn't go away. So I have this inflammation in my Achilles, inflammation in my hip. All of a sudden, my back, I'd always had some back pain, but it was always manageable. All of a sudden, my back stiffness just it's not, all of a sudden, just one thing after another is becoming inflamed, feeling pulled, and I have no idea why all of these injuries are happening. 6 months earlier, I'm traveling the country, jumping around on stage every night, having a good time, and all of a sudden, I'm on the treadmill, and I pull, one thing after another is falling apart. So, I don't have any idea why it's happening. I go to my general practice doctor, which I'm going to say this, and in the clips that go out online, this part always gets cut out, but I am not shitting on the allopathic medical system. It's good for certain things. If you get in a car accident, go to the hospital. If you have a massive infection, yes, go to the hospital. If you have a heart attack, there are reasons to go to the hospital. Unfortunately, they're just not always prepared to handle chronic pain and chronic inflammation. So I will say that first. I am not advocating against the allopathic medical system. But for my situation, I went to the doctor and he wanted to give me anti-inflammatory creams. He wanted to give me other, muscle relaxers, other prescriptions, shoot me up with steroids. In other words, what the system is set up for, which is usually managing the symptoms rather than getting to the root cause of what's going on. And when that didn't help, and I went back, I didn't do all of the things. I did a little bit of the anti-inflammatory cream. I did some steroids, and then I went back to see him. Didn't feel like things were getting better, and then I got the piece that was completely unacceptable to me, which was, well, you're getting older. And that was not going to be okay with me. Like I said, 6 months earlier, I'm jumping around on stage, doing everything and anything in my late 40s, and you're going to tell me 6 months later this is because of age? No, that's bullshit. There's something. I knew there was something going on inside of me, and I wasn't getting the answers. So I went online and started to research, and what can I do to reduce inflammation? And that was really the first time I started learning about some of the different foods out there that are anti-inflammatory versus the other ones that I was eating that were inflammatory. I was seeing a chiropractor. He introduced me to the nutritionist in his practice. I had a consultation with her, and she told me that I was going to have to stop eating pizza, and I almost got out and walked out the door and said, I'm never coming back. We're in Chicago, right? She was adorable. She's like, no, you can have it with like a cauliflower crust and with organic and just vegetables on top. I was like, listen, I'll pretend that coconut milk is milk. I'll pretend almond milk is milk. I'll go across that bridge, but don't ever tell me that is pizza. And of course, we had a good laugh about it. But I wasn't completely ready to hear which was the truth. I wasn't completely ready to hear what was the truth, which was a large part of the inflammation was coming from my diet. So reluctantly, I started an elimination diet. And I removed the things like seed oils and started to reduce my sugar intake, stopped processed foods, started doing turmeric every day, a number of other anti-inflammatory foods in my diet. And it was like, well, okay, this is starting to make a difference. My inflammation didn't go away completely, but it did start to reduce. Certainly, it reduced more than anything that my GP was suggesting that I do. So that was how things started. That was what started me on the path, what created the chronic pain, and then what was the first steps towards me actually healing myself.
So sounds like there was a lot going on in a relatively short period of time. So you're diagnosed with colitis, you've got the Achilles issue, you've got the hip issue, and you've got lower back issue going on. As you were saying 6 months earlier, you were jumping around on stage, and I'm guessing pretty much pain-free at that point?
Yep. Again, a little bit of a back issue, take a hot bath after a show when I got back to the hotel, be fine the next day. But yeah, for the most part, nothing chronic.
Yeah, it's interesting, because pain is so multifactorial. My questioning mind wonders if it was anything to do with the fact that you was no longer doing that thing that you love to do, which would be to play in front of an audience. And somehow that added to the stress. And obviously you got the stress of all the lockdowns and all the nonsense that was going on at the time. And how potentially that may have tipped you over the edge. Maybe, the inflammation in the gut and the ankle and the hip and the back was bubbling under the surface. But then you take away the thing that you love to do, your passion, and then you add in some extra stress, and voila, all of a sudden, all these things seem to come out of nowhere.
100% agree. There was so much stuff bubbling right below the surface that I think the colitis was just the catalyst that really took me over the edge. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, interesting. Just checking in with another real life story, because sometimes it's not just about pain, it's about what the pain is costing you. Nick loved running and playing golf with his sons, but standing all day at work left him with chronic back pain. He couldn't play, couldn't train, and felt like he was watching life from the sidelines. We scaled his training back, focused on what his body needed, and just 8 weeks later, he was pain free, back running, and back out on the golf course with his boys. If you miss the life you had before pain, download my free chronic pain breakthrough blueprint at www.bodycheck.co.uk/free pain guide. It's time to start writing a new chapter. So, again, from my own experience, oftentimes people with chronic pain, they feel trapped. Often they feel dismissed or gaslit by practitioners, or as you kind of almost went down that road, stuck on a treadmill of prescriptions that don't work. What helped you to finally break out of that pattern and start seeing real change?
I was just not willing to accept that I was on a decline that needed to be managed, which is sort of what the standard allopathic medicine is there to do: manage symptoms and really sort of manage the decline of health as you get into your 40s and 50s and 60s. And I was not willing to accept that and just live with the pain. As I said, I've always been a person who, just squeezes every drop of life out of what it is that I'm doing, and I was going to go after this with that same sort of intensity. So I realized that I had to advocate for myself. I realized that I could not depend on anybody else. No one else was going to care about what was going on inside of me the way that I cared about it. And so I couldn't depend on them to fix me. And so I really had to make the decision that I was going to become my advocate, and I was going to go out there and I was going to just keep trying out new treatments, new supplements, new forms of diet and nutrition, until, again, I had either tried everything. I will either fix it, or I will have sat back saying, I've tried everything, I've done everything I can to try to fix it.
Was there any one particular event or thing that happened that made you say to yourself, I need to take responsibility for this, rather than hand over my responsibility to someone that just happens to be wearing a white coat?
I mean, there were a number of things. The different doctors I would go to would give me different opinions that were not consistent with one another. So there was no consistency for me to follow. I think the biggest thing was when I got the shrug of the shoulders that you're just getting old, accept it. I think that was the thing that was like, hell no, that is, I will not accept it. That is not acceptable to me. That's not how I run my life. If you can't help me, then all right, it's on. And then I turned it on, and it became a challenge, and it became something I dove into and really, really started to learn about holistic treatments.
Mm. Yeah, it's something that I get really frustrated over when I hear people say, "Oh, it's my age," or they're told by their medical doctor or other practitioner, "Oh, it's your age." And I usually refer those people to someone else who's older than them that doesn't have that problem,
Yeah.
right? Because if it was down to age, everyone their age or older would have that issue, right?
100%. Look, where I'm at now, and we'll talk about how I got here, but I'm 54, and I feel like I did in my 30s. I feel better than I have
You look
for.
really good for 54.
Thank you, thank you. And I feel that good. So on the inside, I feel like I did in my 30s. Now I go to an extreme. I'm a biohacker that has a 3-hour morning routine that is all of the stuff for my wellness, and I love it. It works for me because it's the thing that has made me feel like I used to. That's not going to be for everyone, and I've said it a bunch of times. You could get 90% of the results doing about a quarter of the things that I do. This is just what I decide to do, because I have decided that I am going to live strong, healthy, and vital until I'm 120. Now, could the good Lord take me tomorrow? Absolutely. That's not the point. It's the intention with no attachment to the results. My intention is to do the things that I can show myself and others that living a strong life is possible well past 100. We're the first generation with access to the treatments necessary to extend our lifespan and health span within that life 10, 20, 30 good years. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one thing that, I always, well, one thing, first of all, I completely believe in. And secondly, I've seen time and time and time and time again in the 29 years I've been working in this field is that the closer someone moves towards living in nature, the more they thrive, the healthier they are. The more you move away from a natural environment, the more sick you become. Then there's no, um, there was no guesswork when I 6 years ago moved out of London, right? I
Yeah.
was I was moving out to the countryside
Nice.
partly for that reason, right? Um, but whether it's eating a diet that's natural for you,
Yes.
so the fact that we're both of English blood, we probably thrive on a similar diet, right? I mean, we've got slightly different genetics, but probably relatively similar. In terms of climate, I mean, we still probably, even in Chicago, it's not that dissimilar a climate from the UK. Maybe it gets a bit colder in the winter, maybe. Bit windier. Well, depends where you live in England. If you live near the
Exactly.
coast, if you live near the coast in England, it's gonna be just as windy.
Yep.
But getting sun during the daylight, actually not using unnatural light at night, making sure you get into bed, long before midnight, all those kind of things that we would have done thousands of years ago,
Yes.
and avoiding glyphosate and other herbicides and pesticides and unnatural fertilizers and whatever it might be, all these things, EMFs, we could go on and on and on about things in our so-called modern world that are absolutely detrimental to our health and, create inflammation in the body, far more likely to, end up with some chronic pain kind of condition. So just rolling back a bit, so you said you found a chiropractor, they referred you to their nutritionist as well. How long did you work with them for, and how far did they take you?
To be honest, I only saw her once, but she kind of got me started with the elimination diet. She kind of opened my eyes to what it is that I needed to do. It was maybe 6 months later that I went to see a functional medicine doctor and had all of the blood tests done, urine tests, where they came back and gave me a very specific list of the foods that worked for me, the foods that I was either allergic to or that my body just didn't process well. And this was, another 6 months of pain after the nutritionist told me the things I needed to do. And so, I did a few things here and there, but, it was like I wasn't going to give up pizza, which so much different now, 5 years later, where my life is. Uh, but when I went to the functional medicine doctor, they put me on a number of supplements that would help me with the gut dysbiosis. Got started to get on, glutathione and berberine, and then I got some methylated B vitamins. I was taking magnesium, these, different things that, meant nothing to me before. So I was doing some good gut detox. I was taking a supplement called Mega Mucosa, which helps to rebuild the lining of your stomach. We come to learn that I had leaky gut syndrome. So all of these things that had been going on in my stomach were allowing large particles of food to get into my system, and the immune system was going crazy, creating all of this inflammation. So we started to work on the gut lining. Huge elimination diet. It was at that point that I finally did give up all dairy. I gave up, I had already gotten off the seed oils for the most part, but occasionally I would eat out. I stopped all of that, uh, removed dairy, completely cut out all refined sugars, and a number of other foods like the nightshade vegetables and a few other things that were just not working for my system. There, for whatever reason, vanilla, parsley, sesame, chia, there were a number of things that just didn't work for my diet. So I cut all of those things out. It was very, very tough, especially the sugar, but things started to get better from there. and the supplements seemed to be working, but then I got a little bit lazy with the supplements, and after about a year, things were coming back. So I went to another functional medicine doctor at that point, and that was when things started to get real serious, and I started to do infrared sauna. I started to do other red light treatments. I did hyperbaric oxygen, and I went through his entire uh, gut cleanse protocol of anti-inflammation, then a detox period, then a follow-up period of rest. While each week I was doing, red light, infrared sauna, cold plunge, hyperbaric oxygen, another machine called the Firefly machine, which is a very, very strong red light that kills certain bacteria and parasites in your gut, well, really anywhere in your body. It's also doing a Tesla Rife machine for, cellular frequency. And so I did that whole protocol for a number of months. And then at the end of it, did a colon hydrotherapy, completely cleaned it out, and followed that up with a fecal matter transplant.
Mm.
And after those things were all said and done, pretty much woke up the next day and was completely pain-free.
Oh, sounds like you just described the last 25 years of my life, but it sounds like you did it in about 18 months.
It's something like that, something like that. And it worked. And along the way, I was learning so many other things. I take about 50 different supplements per day now. I I eat a lot of very nutrient dense foods, grass fed, grass finished, regeneratively farmed, elk, bison. Beef and wild caught salmon are my proteins. I eat a few vegetables, the cruciferous ones, a bunch of avocado, uh, blueberries, a lot of fermented foods, some yogurt, but I have a very, very tight diet. I don't go out to eat, no processed foods, none of those things. And like I said, I have a 3 hour morning routine that includes red light therapy, cold shower, magnesium, bath, a number of other things, some meditation. And it works for me. And as a result of all of those things, going deep in the holistic practices, doing what the people who I trusted there were telling me to do, I started to see the results. And as I continued to do it and really discipline myself, lo and behold, I can't speak for anyone else. I can't promise anyone else that if they do it, it's going to fix them. But I can say that today at 54 years old, I am free of inflammation, free of pain. At 54, I have a six pack, which nobody over 50 has a six pack. And, I feel like I did in my 30s.
Mm, amazing. So what about exercise? Do you have like an exercise regime?
Yeah, so that's also every morning I have a gym in my building, so I go down and do between 10 and 20 minutes of light cardio to get myself warmed up with a little bit of high intensity, a couple of 1 minute sprints in there. Then I do between 30 and 45 minutes of sort of flexibility training. It's kind of something I came up with, it's sort of yoga based, but with some strength stuff in there, core, a lot of flexibility, weird moving around. Make sure to do that at least 6 days a week. If not, I try to do it every day. And then I recently tweaked my back, so I've not been able to do it as much. But another big piece of longevity is lifting weights. So you gotta keep lifting to keep your bones and your joints strong. So I have not for the last month, and it's made me lose some mass. But I try to make it a point to at least 2-3 days a week to go to the gym and lift heavy as well.
Yeah, great. Sounds like you're doing a lot of the same things that I do and I suggest people do as well. So
It
that's
works. We're not
yeah,
reinventing the wheel, right? It works.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the only different. I've never had a fecal transplant, although I would potentially be up for that if
Yeah.
if if I felt I needed it.
Mhm.
Um, I don't take 50 supplements a day. Probably on about 4, maybe.
Okay.
But I do take magnesium. I take Epsom bath salts, and I have an infrared sauna. I do cold showers every day.
Nice.
Um, Yeah, I lift weights. At the moment, I'm actually down to 2 a week. So
Okay.
I'm 56, so I play tennis at weekends, and I've noticed this year, if I do 3 sessions and do heavy legs, I really struggle. I
Yeah.
really struggle. So I've just cut the leg stuff right down, and I'm just doing 2 workouts a week, and I feel great. I actually feel really good.
Amazing. So look, you look fantastic for 56. Look at this, guys. If you're watching this, two guys in their mid 50s doing it, feeling, looking the way we do, because you put the time in. You have got to dedicate some of your life to your health and wellness, or it's hard, but you got to choose your hard. It's even harder to be crippled around in your 60s, not being able to do anything. This is hard, but worth every bit of it.
Mm. Yeah, and and the other thing is, neither of us are perfect. Neither of us have had an easy ride. You've said you've had addiction issues. I had severe acne as a youngster. I took antibiotics for 18 years, and I think
Woo,
what that would have done to my gut microbiome, or all the microbiomes, right?
gone.
So the last 26 years, I've been trying to recover all that.
Wow.
Um, but as you said, if you do the right things day in, day out, um, then, for me, it's important for me to stay healthy so that if someone says to me, do you want to do this? It's down to me whether I want to do it or not down to whether my body will let me do it or not.
Love it. Yeah.
Right. And, because I did have a shoulder injury, it kept me off of playing tennis for about 18 months. I went back in the spring. And the first couple of times I played, I was really sore. I was thinking, oh no, this isn't good. But now, I can play Saturday and Sunday and I'm still good,
Love
But
it.
again, again, if you're doing stuff like that, you've got to know how to recover.
Yes.
So again, hot and cold showers, foam rolling, Theragun or massage, or,
Yeah.
all these things just help your recovery process. Again, saunas. I've got a red light that's for more for injuries. It's not like a big one. It's one you can strap on. Like if your knee feels a bit sore after playing tennis, you can just strap it on your knee.
Got one of those too. Tommy
Yeah,
Copper.
yeah. In 20 minutes, it feels much better. And the next day I can go back and play, and it's not an issue. And when I was 40, I remember saying I want to be able to play tennis like this when I'm 70.
Nice.
I don't want to play like the guys in their 70s that I can see playing tennis who look like they're in pain playing tennis.
Exactly.
And they're struggling to move, and you can see their mind isn't working very quickly. And, I'm over halfway there and I'm still moving like I was when I was 40.
Love it. It's and because you've been doing it this whole time, you'll be able to do it at 70.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
That's
Love it.
definitely the plan. Yeah, for sure. Let's take a quick break because this story might resonate if you're someone who loves to push your limits, only to be pulled back by pain. Stephen was a banker and an aspiring Ironman triathlete. Every time he trained hard, whether for ski season or for triathlon, he'd get knocked back by injury. He felt stuck in a cycle of effort followed by disappointment. After working together on a holistic plan that fit his lifestyle, Stephen not only had the best ski season ever, but he also completed his first Ironman. And he did it pain-free. And he even referred a friend who went on to run his fastest marathon time yet. If pain keeps stealing your progress, download my free chronic pain breakthrough blueprint at www.bodycheck.co.uk/free pain guide. You deserve to train without setbacks. So you're doing all these things, which is great. What were any therapies or discoveries that perhaps really surprised you? Things you didn't expect perhaps to work but did, or approaches that challenged your beliefs at the time?
Yeah, I think that the biggest one was the realization of how intensely and quickly and acutely your food affects your body. When you start to remove the crap that we ate growing up that we didn't know was bad for us, the things that build up all of that pain and inflammation in your body, when you remove them and you actually clean yourself out, it is amazing to see how quickly, when these substances enter your body, how quickly you are truly affected by it. And if you start to pay attention to that, it makes all the difference in the world. I have you know how it is. Once people know what you're doing or how you've gotten better, they come to you with questions. Hey, what about this? What about that? There's a young man I met recently. He's in recovery himself. Just been for a few years. Was asking me a number of questions and was saying, I sometimes out of nowhere, I just experienced this anxiety. Like, what would you do about that? Like, would red light therapy be good for that? Or, my doctor thinks I should get on an antidepressant or something like that. And then we talked a little bit and came to find out that every evening he was drinking like a Monster Energy drink. It's like, well, yeah, that's how about we start with you not drinking a Monster Energy drink and then wondering why randomly you get anxiety. And just that disconnect that so many people have between what you're consuming and what it's doing inside of your body. I was that person. I had no idea that my diet was doing so much to affect my health and my longevity and aging me so badly. And God knows how much of an effect that actually had on the reason my addiction started in the first place. So I think that has been the biggest wow, is how we are not trained to know how seriously our foods affect our body, our moods, our energy. And once I began to truly pay attention to it, I can now say, I'm feeling this. That's the first thing I think, not as, oh, I need to get an Advil or maybe I need to go to the doctor. My first thought is, okay, let me go back and think about, what did I eat yesterday? Or what did I eat this morning? Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah. 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 I mean, in the work that I do, so I use something called metabolic typing when I'm helping people individualize their own diet that's right for them. And during the process, I get them to fill in diet sheets. And around 90 minutes after they've eaten, there's a series of questions, and they really relate to how the person feels in terms of their energy, their satiety, and their emotions, because food affects all three,
Absolutely.
right? And the better your answers are 90 minutes after, the more you realize that that meal was right for you at that time,
Interesting. That's good.
right? And oftentimes it comes down to, yes, of course, the quality of the foods, but oftentimes it comes down to the macronutrient ratios, the fats, the proteins, the carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously getting that right, again, we're all different. But when you get that right, the key thing it does is stabilize your blood sugar,
Yeah.
right?
Love
But
it.
coming back to, again, how diet affects you, I'm going to tell you this. My listeners have heard me say this a million times now, probably fed up of me talking about it, but it illustrates the point really well. So about 6 years, I moved out of London to where I live now. For some reason, I just thought, I'm going to change breakfast. I've been in this similar kind of breakfast for years. I had a very kind of meaty kind of breakfast. For some reason, I just thought, all right, let's change it up. What was I doing in the 90s, when I was a young guy, when I was, in better shape than I am now? And I thought, I used to have like porridge and a protein shake. Back then it probably wasn't a very good quality protein shake, unlike I would use now. So anyway, so I switched. I was having like a cereal, like a gluten-free cereal and a protein shake. And after a few weeks or months went by, and I was having, one of the things I was having was this organic gluten-free granola. I kept feeling nauseous after I ate it, right? And I thought, there's got to be something not right about this. And one of the things that I teach people to do is something called the pulse test. So it's one way of finding out what food your body's sensitive to. So you're creating an immune response, inflammation. And what you do is you take your pulse and then you put this food under your tongue and you retest. So I tested it for this granola, and my resting heart rate is normally about 45, somewhere around there. And I put it under my tongue for 1 minute. I retested it and it was about 95.
Wow.
I was like, wow, no wonder I feel nauseous, because this is having a massive effect on me. So I was like, right, threw that away, not having that again. But what happened not long after I moved here, I started getting knee pain in my left knee. My left knee, I've always said, is my good knee.
Mm.
And, it was on the medial side of my knee, and I'm thinking, is it my medial collateral ligament? Is it my medial meniscus? Wasn't quite sure. And what would happen is I'd play tennis at the weekend, knee would get really sore, and I couldn't bend the knee more than about 90 degrees. So your knee should be able to bend about 135 degrees, but it was only 90 degrees. So anytime I had to bend down, it was a real effort, and I sounded like an old man. I'd be kneeling down or something. I was fine in the gym. I could go to the gym, absolutely fine. I could do everything, squats, lunges. Didn't make anything any worse. Felt fine. Then I'd start playing tennis again the following weekend. So the knee, by the next weekend, the knee felt okay. I still didn't have much range. It was still inflamed, but it wasn't painful. And I played tennis again at the weekend, and of course, pain comes back. And that went on for a few years. And I was teaching a course with a colleague of mine, and I said, "Oh, can you just run some diagnostic tests on my knee, because you can't do it on yourself, right?" So he ran some tests on my knee, and he's like, "No, it's not medial collateral ligament. No, it's not medial meniscus. It's osteoarthritis, which, it's inflammation of the knee joint." So, okay, that's interesting. Anyway, cut a long story short, I decided to cut out gluten-free oats from my diet, right? Within 3 weeks, I had zero pain in my knee and full range of motion.
So why do you think that is?
My body just didn't like something that was in those oats. It was causing some inflammatory, whether it's to do with the family of oats. I mean, I am quite sensitive to anything with gluten.
Yeah.
I mean, they were gluten-free oats, but it doesn't mean necessarily they're completely gluten-free.
Yeah.
There are other chemicals potentially in oats that could have done that. But yeah, as soon as I cut them out, bang, 3 weeks, completely gone. So
I've also heard so much about the mold content in the storage of oats, and
yeah,
how difficult that is to actually get rid of. So yeah, there's so many. I do not touch oats. There's just so many things about oats that I've heard that are just so bad. So I'm with you on that one. But that's very interesting. A great example of paying attention, elimination diet, and boom, you're better.
yeah, yeah. Food is a massive one. I was actually at I was at a tennis event a few weeks ago. So it's a 20-year anniversary of the 7/7 bombings in London. And very sadly, one of my tennis friends was on the bus that got blown up. Obviously he didn't make it. And so we had like I guess a 20-year celebration of his life. And the club opened a new pavilion. They named it after him. Obviously, it was a really lovely day, because I haven't been playing at that club for a long time. But it's really nice to see everyone. It was a really, really great day. And two different people, I haven't seen them for years. Two people approached me to say they had arthritis. What can they do about it?
Mm.
Right. And your story with the pizza, right? You weren't ready to hear that.
No, I was
right?
not ready yet.
So these people said, "What do you think I should do?" And I said, "Well, it's on both sides of the body, right?" And they went, "Yeah." Okay. It's probably a systematic issue. It's probably not just simple wear and tear. I said, "What does that mean?" "Probably something you're eating." And you should have seen the look on their face. It was like, I'm not going there. I don't want to know that. I don't want to know the answer. I've left them with it,
Yeah.
and
All you could do, plant the
yeah.
seed. You tell somebody, cut out sugar. Oh, whoa, no. That's my one vice. I love it when people say that. That's my one vice.
Well,
Okay.
you got another vice. It's called pain.
Exactly. But it's crazy. And you know what? I'm joking, but no judgment, because when the nutritionist came to me, it said that I had to stop eating pizza. I was not ready, but eventually I was blessed with the gift of desperation. Enough pain had gone through my body that I was like, okay. It was the same thing with my addiction. Finally, I hit rock bottom, was like, no more pain. There's someone out there who has the answer. Same with this.
Yeah. Yeah. That,
But
that's
until
the,
then, we plant seeds.
yeah, that's the thing. It does sadly for some people take getting to rock bottom before they do have the bravery, I guess, to make those changes, because change is scary. We are, as humans, creatures of habit, and
Mhm.
we like being comfortable, and our habits make us comfortable. The problem with comfort is it generally builds weak people,
Yep.
right? It's when you've gone through hard times that you become tougher. It's like, if you don't ever train your biceps, you're not going to have strong biceps, right? It's got to go through some discomfort to
Exactly.
optimize its potential. And we're the same. And I completely understand why people don't want to make change, because they want to feel comfortable.
Yes.
But what I say often to my clients is that no one has ever achieved anything amazing staying in their comfort zone.
Yep.
The magic happens when you step outside of that comfort zone,
Love it.
right? And another, I'm full of cheesy sayings, but I think they're really powerful. And another one is get comfortable feeling uncomfortable.
That's one of the sort of, want to say, cliche recovery sayings that has been a part of my lexicon since I got into recovery and started sponsoring guys. Was, I mentioned I used to do speaking events, and part of it would be me saying, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's the other thing, is you got to choose your hard. Like, we need to stop being a bunch of weak people. We have been trained into the fact that there's a pill for everything, there's an easy way for everything. No, it's hard. You choose your hard. You choose the hard that you and I do, or you choose the hard of dying early, living in the sick care system, and not being able to play with your grandkids. Or, God, you work your ass off until you're in your 60s, 65, 70 years old. You finally have an opportunity to go travel the world, but your body won't let you. That's hard. That's hard. It's all hard. You got to choose your hard. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, it's a great point. And even if you can travel the world, are you going to enjoy it if you're constantly in pain all the time?
No,
Of course not.
absolutely not.
You know, and that's the thing that I've seen so many times over so many years is, you know, the joy someone comes in. I was able to play with my kid again today.
Love it.
First time in 6 months, and things like that. Or, they're back playing semi-professional soccer or whatever their passion is, playing the guitar on
Yep.
stage, right? You know, diving out onto the crowd and whatever it is that floats their boat,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
And that's another point, is that, when you're in a position where you're struggling, right? You're in pain. Think to yourself, what would be the best scenario for my life? What would bring me the most joy? What is my dream right now? Because when you've got a dream, there's no room for a crisis. Or when you've got a big enough dream,
Yes.
right?
Love it.
And that gives you something to focus on. What's your reason to change? Yes, the change is uncomfortable, but if the reason to change is so big, if there's so much to benefit from, is it not worth going through a little bit of pain to get there? Can we talk about the kind of pain people often hide? The kind that affects your gut, your skin, your energy, and your confidence. Sharon, a finance professional, came to me with stomach pain, breakouts, insomnia, and exhaustion. She felt run down, bloated, and stuck in survival mode. With the right testing and a personalized plan, Sharon healed her gut, cleared her skin, started sleeping through the night, and the weight around her middle melted off without even trying. If your body feels like it's giving up on you, don't ignore the signs. Download my chronic pain breakthrough blueprint for free at www.bodycheck.co.uk/free pain guide. You can feel like yourself again.
You are preaching to the choir, my friend. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. And, another analogy I say to people, if you're going to work with me, think of it like where I'm helping you win a gold medal at the Olympics. How much level of commitment, desire, effort is it going to take to win a gold medal? That's how you need to look at your situation right now,
Love it.
right? Your
Yep.
gold medal might be being able to go to work and being able to perform your work and not worrying about getting fired because you can't perform at work, right? Let's say you're a construction worker. If you've got a bad back or a bad shoulder, you're in trouble,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And then you might want to play sport at the weekend. Well, if you've got bad back and a bad shoulder, that's probably not going to happen either. And life becomes pretty unbearable, frustrating, right? So talking of uncomfortable, what was it like the first time you did cold therapy?
Ha. Oh man. I'm opening a wellness center here in my community. We're about a month
Nice.
from opening, and it's going to be offering infrared sauna and cold plunge. So we've been doing a lot of promotions, and the results from people when they hear cold plunge and they talk about how they couldn't possibly do it. Uh, it is not easy. It is not easy, but after doing it, the benefits are so incredibly amazing. It is like a extremely uh visceral example of everything we're talking about, where you've got to go through the pain in order to get the benefit. You got to do the work to get the result, and it's in like a microcosm of 3 to 5 minutes. If you can deal with the discomfort of the cold plunge for 3 minutes, and you get out what it does for inflammation, what it does for collagen, what it does for an increase in your dopamine and your norepinephrine, what it does in terms of releasing cold shock proteins, what it does to make your body like the vasodilation and then the inward movement of the blood to your core, where you get pure, strong, oxygenated blood down in your core and your brain and through your organs. So many amazing, amazing health, wellness, and longevity benefits. And then you get out after 3 to 5 minutes and you feel like the best high of your life. It is, you can't not have energy. You can't not be in a good mood. It is just one of the ultimate hacks in the moment for wellness. I love it. I am an evangelist for it. I'm trying to get as many people out there in the world to try it out because it is great, but it's also that challenge. You said you can't do it. Bullshit, you can't do it. You made that decision. Change that decision in your head. Challenge yourself. We did a cold plunge challenge. We've had a couple of parties, and I bought a portable cold plunge, and I'd done a cold plunge challenge where if you can do the 5 minutes at 50 degrees, I'll give you a month membership at my new wellness center. And I've had a bunch of people do it. Everyone who's gone in and said they're going to do it has made it. Nobody has chickened out or gotten out early. And there's not one person who's come out the other side and has regretted it. They've all said they felt amazing. And most of them said there's no way they could do it until I told them or convinced them or, bribed them into getting in there. Once they did it, the amazing results, but also just the esteem that comes from doing something hard that you didn't think you can do. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember being introduced to cold plunging. I'm trying to remember when it was. Would have been, I'm going to guess, about 12 years ago.
Okay.
And I remember at the time thinking, oof, I'm not sure I like the idea of that. And I did put it off for a couple of years. I did put it off for a
Nice.
couple of years. I didn't, and again, when you live in a cold climate, the last thing you want to do is get colder, right?
Exactly.
Like this time, right now in the UK is pretty warm. You can probably see I'm kind of glowing a little bit because it's pretty
A
warm at the
little bit.
moment.
Sure.
So I'm not going in my sauna at the moment. No, I'm sweating all day. Like, why do I want to go in the sauna? And it was a bit like that, certainly in the winter here when it came to, well, I didn't have a cold plunge, but what I started doing was cold showers. And I actually took to it really well. And like you say, the first time I did it, for me, it's the first 3 to 5 breaths. Once I've got through that, I'm in. It's not difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be my advice to anyone. Just take 3 to 5 really deep breaths because, you're going to lose your breath anyway when it's that cold, right? You go, right? You're going to get that when you first get in, but just take deep breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth, just big deep breaths. Fill up your belly as you breathe in, breathe out. And by the time you've done that, you're kind of through the hard part. The rest of it
Absolutely.
is
Yep.
relatively easier. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's easier.
Mhm.
Um, and like you say, when you get out, you feel absolutely amazing. Um, I remember 12 years ago, I ruptured 2 discs in my lumbar spine,
Wow.
and it was pretty bad. I dropped foot, couldn't walk properly, and I didn't want to take painkillers. I didn't want to take anti-inflammatories. In fact, I didn't. I didn't take anything. But what I did do, purely for pain relief, is I would put an ice pack and I'd lie on it on my lower back. So for someone who's in pain, cold can be a really good pain relief without having all the chemicals floating through your body that normally cause gut issues, which can cause more inflammation and actually in the long term create more pain.
Thank you.
So, and hot can also be of benefit as well. So hot, you're really speeding up the healing process, right? And then you got the red light therapy. I don't know if you're going to have red light therapy as well in your wellness center, but
I
that would be
am.
a great idea.
Yep.
Um, so if you're in pain and you think, oh no, I couldn't do any kind of cold therapy, I would highly recommend, you put your big boy's pants on or your big girl's pants on and
There
just
you
do
go.
it.
That's
Just do
right.
it.
Just
You
do
know,
it.
get over yourself. Just jump in and do it, and you'll feel so much better afterwards.
Yep. As long as what you said is the key, breathing. You got to know how to breathe. So once you got that, it's all good. You got to start slow. Start with, first time I did it for maybe 20, 30 seconds, got out. You just keep going back, do the breathing, get a little bit further with it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to my question, what what if anything of the treatments surprised you? You mentioned food and how quickly food can have an effect. Was there anything else that surprised you?
I think until you experience it, it's hard to believe that just putting a red light on your body is going to actually remove pain and inflammation and absorb down to the cellular level and boost your energy via mitochondria and all of the things that it promises to do. Until you get into it, it sounds a little woo woo. Then after you do it and you think about the actual healing benefits of the sun and the different aspects of the light spectrum, it starts to make sense. But that was probably another one of the big surprises. And like you, I have one that goes on my knee or on my back. I have the cap that I wear because I've still got a few going on up here, so I do the cap every day to keep things going on up there. But then I have a big red light panel here at home that I use every day, and it makes a huge difference. It's helped. I've had some hypothyroid Hashimoto issues from all of the inflammation, all my immune system being on red alert for years until I figured out what was going on. It started to attack the thyroid to some degree. But when I do my red light every day, I spend about 5 minutes with it here, and that's made a huge difference. So yeah, red light, hyperbaric oxygen has been a big game changer for me as well. But that's kind of, that's not as big of a shock. Like in a chamber for an hour with pure oxygen, that makes sense to me intellectually. I think, yeah, probably the red light, that really seriously just sitting in front of a red light could make that big of a difference, was another big shock for me.
Mm. And I guess as a musician, your sleep timings probably weren't optimal.
Once I got home, once I got back into this rhythm of not being on the road, I've actually been a really good sleeper, and it's gotten better over time. I got the Aura Ring to help me track some of that, but I'm generally asleep by about 9 p.m., sleep pretty solidly through until about 5:36 a.m. Usually get up on my own at that point. So uh sleep has been a huge part of the wellness routine, and I've done a pretty good job of keeping with it.
Yeah, because again, it's such an important part of the
Huge.
process because
Yes.
you only heal when you're asleep, and you heal optimally or you sleep optimally if you're in a dark environment,
Yes.
because you need darkness for melatonin to be released. And then once the melatonin's released, it allows for the other growth and repair hormones to be released. And, up until about 2 a.m., it's pure physical recovery. After 2 a.m., it's more psychological, mental recovery. So it's really important that you get to bed as far possible before 2 a.m.
Mm.
If you're going to bed at midnight, you're missing at least half of the opportunity you have to physically recover. So for anyone, that's important, but for anyone in pain, it's even more important because, that is when your body is recovering. And for some people, some people's tissues have already healed, but they're still experiencing pain. And that's because your body's on full alert. Well, one way in which you can calm the body down is to get optimum sleep.
Yes. That's a huge one.
Yeah. Yeah. So looking back after everything you've been through, what would you say is your core message, that you hope people take away from your experience with chronic pain and recovery?
I think that there are two things. Number one is just don't give up hope. Hope is such an important piece of the puzzle. Do not listen to anyone who tells you that you just have to live with it. Keep hope, and behind that hope, you have got to be able to access a reserve of discipline. Not motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It will go. Some days you're going to want to do everything. Some days you're not. You have to put want to out of the picture and really develop discipline. So I think those are the two things, hope and discipline. If you keep the hope, keep pushing via the discipline, anything is possible.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I've spoken about quite a bit, certainly when, I've spoken about my back injury, is that I don't know where it came from, but I just had this real deep belief that I was going to get better. Not that I might get better, that I was going to get better. And I don't know where that came from. And because, with a discs don't have much blood supply, so they do take a long time to heal. So from day to day, week to week, even month to month, I wasn't noticing any improvement. But so that can be really frustrating. But
Yes.
I just had this deep, deep belief I was going to get better. And that is actually an important part of any healing process, having the belief that you will, because we know about the placebo effect, right? We know
Yes.
how powerful our mind is in terms of healing. Someone could have, a deadly disease and you say, right, here's the fix, and it's an injection, and they can inject them with saline.
Yep.
And they get better, right? We know the power of the placebo. But also there's the nocebo, which is the complete opposite. If you don't believe you're going to get better, then you're not going to get better.
Correct.
So having the positive mindset, having the hope, as you said, but having that deep belief that you are going to get better, even if you're in that situation where it's really frustrating, you've been to see all these people, nothing's worked yet, just have that belief you're going to find the right person or the right book or the right video on YouTube that's going to unlock the solution for you. Just keep having that belief, and also understand that pain is there to teach you something, right?
Yes, sir.
Whether it's that food doesn't work for you, or you've just stepped on something sharp, or you need to deal with your childhood trauma, or whatever it might be.
Yes, sir.
Right? Or whatever it might be. It's just trying to tell you something.
Yes. Love it.
So, taking painkillers, yes, I understand at times they're necessary. I understand that, but they're not the long-term solution.
Never.
Awesome. So, Jan, what's next for you? Opening your wellness center, I guess.
So that has got 100% of my attention right now. Where are we at now? Friday, July 18th of 2025. We are doing our soft opening as of August 8th. where we'll have open 7 private contrast therapy rooms where you have an infrared sauna, a cold plunge, and a shower. And then we have our grand opening at the end of that month. And when we have our grand opening, we also open the clinic side of things, which will have hyperbaric oxygen, IV drip, Tesla Rife therapy, as well as a fusion red light PEMF system where you get a little bit of both from each side. So that, plus we have an apothecary filled with all of the really, really high-end supplements, as well as some biohacking gear. It's going to be amazing. It's a dream come true. So just working on getting that finished and launched within the next month.
And what's the name of it, and where will it be?
Yes, the name of the wellness center is HEAL, the Center for Wellness and Longevity, and we are in a suburb just outside of Chicago. We're in the Oak Park River Forest Park area. If for any reason you're anywhere close by and want to come check us out, you can either find it through me personally and my website, which is jamalker.com. My name, JAMALKER.com, or you could go directly to the HEAL website, which is HEAL, the number 4 wellness, heal4wellness.com.
Awesome. Great stuff. Jam, I've absolutely loved chatting with you today. It's been a really, really enjoyable conversation, and hopefully it's been a little bit informative for the audience as well.
Absolutely, man. We're on the same page. We're just preaching to the choir here. I love it. Guys, look what I've done. Look what he does. Look what we're doing in our mid-50s. There's no secret. Just doing the work, and you come out on top every time. Thank you for having me, Leigh. Appreciate you.
Pleasure. And if I'm ever in your neck of the woods, I'll give you a shout.
Please do. You have my information. I'd love to see you out here. And if I make it back to jolly old England, I'll look you up as well.
Awesome. Great stuff.
All right, man.
So that's it from Jam and me for this week. But be sure to tune in, same time, same place, next week on Beyond the Pain. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Pain. If this episode resonated, please follow the show, leave a review, or share it with someone you know who's been struggling. And remember, pain is not permanent. With the right insight and support, you can turn it into power. Until next time, stay open, stay strong, and keep moving beyond the pain.